So now you got some grammar background now, like some grammar rules under your belt, right? But now I think it's time to learn how to conjugate some verbs. Conjugate some verbs, what does that mean? Well, I think in our previous videos we talked about like, oh, this is the speaking way and this is the writing way. Now you're going to be able to learn how to like conjugate every verb into the speaking way. So let's get started with our lesson. So here we are. We have some verbs here. We have gotta, which means to go,
go, 공부하다,
to study,
먹다,
to eat. So we have all these verbs. What do they all have in common though?
다.
Da.
They all finish with 다.
Yeah, so it's a good indicator. Like when you see a verb, if it ends with da, then you know, oh, that's a verb, right? That's kind of easy. Okay, so when you're on the lookout for verbs, just kind of keep an eye out. If it ends with da, then you probably can say, oh, that's a verb, right? And so we're going to learn how to conjugate all these verbs so you know how to use it properly when you're speaking. So there are a few rules, and this is the first rule that you need to know. Okay, so right here I have a or o. So when you're looking at the verb, if the last vowel ends with a or o, we need to add io to the verb. So for example, we have
살다,
yes, salda.
살다,
Now this is always tricky for me to salda. And then this means to live. Now if you look at the last vowel, it's an a, right? Here's an a, and it ends with an a. So what we need to do is add io to this verb. So remember also when we're conjugating verbs, we need to take out the da. So da is never involved when we're conjugating. Da is just to let us know that's a verb, okay? So we have sal, and then we need to add io. So when we add it, it becomes into
살아요,
살아요, right? 살아요, right?
살아요.
So when you're speaking, don't say 살다. Don't say that. You gotta say 살아요, right?
살아요.
Yeah, like 한국에서 살아요. I live in Korea. 미국에서 살아요. So I live in America. So just remember, when you're speaking, you gotta conjugate, and this is the way. Okay. Now, this is pretty simple because there's a consonant right here, right? So when there's a consonant, then it's super easy. You just gotta add ayo. So it's just sarayo. But then there'll be times where it doesn't end with a consonant, and then it becomes a little bit more difficult sometimes. So in our next example, we have gada. Actually, this one's super easy, but the next one's gonna be kind of confusing. So we have gada, right? And then the last vowel is ah. So it ends with ah, so we need to add ayo, right? So ga plus the ayo, it equals gayo. Then you're like, Tara, that's easy. You just add yo, right? Just ga. You can literally just say ga with your friends, right? But gayo is the polite way, right? You gotta say that to your mom, your grandparents, someone, trying to be respectful. And now the next one. We have oda.
오다,
Yes, oda, right? Oda means to come. And it ends with an O, right? Ends with an O, right? And so that means we need to add ayo, right? So when you add O and ayo, you get
와요.
wayo. Now this is a little more difficult. You just gotta remember, you gotta combine it together into one like stanza. Wayo, right? So really, O and a, wa. It sounds like wa, wayo. Okay? And then that is rule number 1. If it ends with an a or o, you need to add io, and then we explain how to do it, right? So here's a little recap. If it ends with a consonant, if it ends with a, or it ends with o, this is how you do it, right? So this is the the end of the first rule. And now let's look at the second rule. Now, if the last vowel is not an a and not an o, you need to add
어요.
oyo, right? Oyo. So remember, if it doesn't end with an r or o, you need to add oyo, right? So right here we have mukta, mukta. Mukta ends with an o, right?
yeah.
It's not an a,
It's
not an o. So we need to add
먹어요.
oyo, right?
먹어요.
And again, of course, we don't add da when we're conjugating the verbs, okay? So mok plus oyo turns into
먹어요.
mogoyo, mogoyo, okay? So we just add it. It's pretty simple. I mean, the ones when it ends with a consonant, it's pretty easy. You just add oyo, then you don't have to do much. You don't have to change anything or try to guess what's how to put them together. You just add oyo. So mogoyo. Our next one is
주다.
juda.
주다 means to give, and when you see the vowel, it finishes with u, right? So it's not an a, it's not an o. Then you have to add 어요, 주어요, 주어요. But when you speak 주어요, 주어요, you just speak little fast and naturally 좋아요, 좋아요 is become 좋아요.
Yeah, so so this one is like if you try to like what Donna tried to say, like you have u and o and you put them together, you can go it turns into wo. Yo, joyo, joyo, right? You put them together.
Yeah.
So honestly, this one's quite easy compared to the other ones, and you'll see why. If you look at our next example, we have mashira, which means to drink.
Drink
And then if you look at the last vowel,
is e.
is e, right? It's e. It's not a, it's not o. So when we need to add oyo,
Oyo.
right? So mashi plus oyo. So we combine shi and o.
Pronounce it like normal
E o
fast.
e o e o
마셔요.
마셔요 마셔요 마셔요.
Yeah, so it becomes 마셔요.
Yeah. Then you're like, oh, Tara, if we don't add an E to this thing? Like, yeah, I know, right? When I first learned this, I was like, what? Wait, I have to remember that if I have an E and I have an O, when I put them together, you get a yo. This? Oh, man, that really, like, broke my brain at one point. I was like, I got to remember this. But when you try to say it, honestly, mashi plus oyo, mashoyo, mashoyo.
마셔요.
Yeah, mashoyo.
마셔요.
So when you have an E, when it ends with an E, and then it turns into a yo, right? Mashoyo. So anytime it ends with an E, you have to add an O, right? And our next example for this one, suda. Suda means to write.
Right.
And then if you look at the last vowel, it's a
으.
right? And it's not an a,
It's not an o.
so we need to add
어요.
oyo, right? Now, 느어요, 쓰어요, 쓰어요.
Yeah.
Now, if you try to say this super fast, 써요, 써요.
써요.
So it turns into
써요.
soyo. Yeah. So how I remember this when I was learning Korean for the first time, and when I was conjugating this, I was like, how do I put this in my head? How do I remember this? So anytime if it ends with a I just kind of remember just take out the and then add o, and then you have soyo. That's it.
써요.
So I just try to remember when it ends with an just take it out and add o and then soyo. Most of the time it's like that. But there are some irregular verbs, of course, so it's going to change a little bit. But for most cases, you take that and add o, so it turns into soyo, soyo. But when you try to combine the sounds, su, oyo, soyo, soyo. Yeah, right? Okay, so that's rule number 2, right? So here's a little recap of this. If it ends with a consonant, you just add oyo. If it ends with an u, it
좋아요.
joyo. It ends with an e,
마셔요.
soyo, and then
마셔요.
su, soyo.
써요.
Yeah. So I think this is a very helpful screen. Maybe you should screen grab this. And then we have one more rule, and it is my favorite one, and because it's so easy.
What?
Hara. Hara is so easy. Super, super, super easy. Because if it ends with hara, you just put heyo, right? Change it to heyo. Hara into heyo. That is so simple. So right here we have kombu hara, right? It means to study. And then ends with hara, right? And then,
공부?
what is kombu?
Study.
And hara is?
Do.
So whenever you have a hara verb, this part right here is like the noun, right?
Yeah.
Right? So just know that when there's a hara attached, you can safely assume this part before it is a noun. So gombu means study, hara means do. So to study, right? So what we got to do is take out the hara, add heyo, and then it turns into gombu heyo. Yeah. Okay. Easy as that. So let's look at another hara verb because I like them so much. Pigon hara, right? Means to be tired, and it ends with hara. So pigon means tired. Add the heyo, then you get pigon heyo. So easy, so easy. It after going through the other rules, this one was like a breath of fresh air. It's so easy. It's like, oh my god. And then so many verbs end with hara, right?
Yeah.
So many of them. So once you know this rule, you know how to conjugate half the verbs already. You know so much already. Let's do one more.
말하다.
Mahara. And that means,
To say, to talk.
and it ends with hara. So we add mal plus
말해요.
heyo equals
말해요.
말해요. Mareo. Hmm. Can you say that one more time?
말해요.
How did you say it?
말해요.
Yeah, mareo.
말해요.
Okay. You know my question, right? What's my question?
Your question is like 말해요 and 말해요.
Why?
I think it's because sometimes when you speak naturally or fast, you don't pronounce exactly, right?
Yeah.
So it's like kinda silence or smooth way, just 말해요.
Yeah.
말해요.
So-
we don't say 말해요.
Yeah.
Like, but sometimes when you wanna, what's that? Exaggerate? What is
Exaggerate?
that?
Yeah.
Is that right expression?
Oh,
When you want to.
enunciate, pronounce something to make to say your point clearly. Mao hey yo, right? When you're a little bit angry or you want someone to understand.
But normally, if you just, it's not important to, it's not the point you wanna
Say
say, then you can just 말해요.
mareo, right? Mareo, right?
or-
So really, that's like the little nuances of learning a new language. Just knowing you don't need to say mao heo, just say mareo, mareo, right? All right. So here's a little recap. Just remember, if it ends with hada, you just change it to heyo, and then you're done. That's all you gotta do. Okay. So just a little recap. Remember, if it ends with r or o, you add ayo.
And if the verb last vowel is not ends with a on o, then you add oil.
And then my favorite one, if it ends with hada, all you gotta do is change
Hail.
hail. Yeah, hail. So simple. And it's time for our test.
Test.
So test time. So it's really simple. We're not doing any sentences. Just want you to conjugate the verbs. So I have a verb here, and then we're gonna work them just like how we done them in our examples, right? So I'll give you 5 seconds. Pause the video if you need more time. Then we're gonna answer together. Okay, Donna. So what's our verb today?
읽다.
Ikta, and that means to read. So of course we need to take out the da, right? So we take out, and then what is the last vowel?
E.
E. It's not an a, it's not an o, so we need to do.
Add oil. 읽어요.
Then turn to ilgoyo, right?
읽어요.
Yeah, that means to read, or I'm reading, or she's reading. If you just says ilgoyo, it means so much, right? It can mean like
I read.
I read, you read, she reads, he reads, they read, we read. Wow.
읽어요.
Next one.
보다.
Okay, boda means to watch. And of course, we gotta take out the da, right? So we have bo.
보.
It ends with a
오.
o. It ends with an o. So we need to add
아요.
ayo.
Yeah.
And then that turns into
봐요.
봐요.
Yeah. 봐요.
yeah, bo, a, boa,
봐요.
boayo, boayo. Question number 3. This
운동하다.
Yes, this is my favorite conjugation rule. All you gotta do
is
add 해요, and then you get
운동해요.
운동해요. Exercise. I exercise. Number 4. Alda, Alda.
알다.
Now,
알다.
Alda. Like I feel
알다.
like, cause the real or the L sound right here. In English, our L, like our tongue is sticking out this way. Our tongue is completely up. But with their L and R, it's kind of like in between. So Alda. So
Yeah, it's just in the middle of
Of
R and L.
yeah. So
알다.
yeah, Alda. I'm still learning after 3 years. Alda, and that means to know. And then we can take out the da, so we're left with al. And then last vowel is
아. So it's not an O. Oh, it's 아.
Yeah, so it ends with a. So that means we need to add
아요.
ayo. And look, there's a consonant, so it's gonna be super easy, right? So it turns into
알아요.
arayo. And notice that it starts with an L sound when we just the base form, but when we like conjugate it, it turns to like an R sound. Alda, and then arayo.
알아요.
Arayo.
알아요.
It's more closer to like an R. No?
알아요.
In my ears, it's closer to an R.
알다.
Alda.
알다. 알아요.
Yeah, it sounds like L and R to me.
Really?
Yeah. You don't. Well, I guess because in English we have very distinct. It's L or R. But Korean has that. But I feel like sometimes it's closer to an R. Sometimes it's closer to an L. And then I think we can pick it up easier than you guys can.
Right.
Question number 5. 입다. 입다 means to wear something. Now, just know that 입다 means to wear something that's not on your head and not on your feet. There's actually 3 ways to say to wear something. To wear something on your head is 쓰다, right?
쓰다.
To wear something on your feet is
신다.
신다. And then everything else is 입다. So 입다 means to wear something that's not on your head or on your feet. And then, of course, We need to take out the da. We're left with e, right? The last vowel is e. So we need to add
oil.
oyo because it's not an a, it's not an o. So it's oyo. And then when we combine this, we get
입어요.
iboyo, right? Iboyo.
입어요.
All right. And question number 6, our last one.
배우다.
배우다 means to learn. And then, of course, we need to take out the da, right? So we have 배우. We're left with 배우. And then we look at the last vowel. U. It's not an a. It's not an o. So we need to add oyo, right? And this turns into
배워요.
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 배워요, right? All right. So, guys, that's the end of our test. You did it. Yes. We did it. Well, you did it, right?
You did it.
You did it. All right. Whew. I feel like this was so hard. When I first did this, I was struggling so much because I had to remember all these things. And my friend, even my Korean friend, she, like even you, when I was explaining this conjugation rule to her, did you ever thought about it like this way?
No. I never learned about this and I never thought about this. I just
know.
learned it very naturally.
Yeah.
Just 배우다, 배워요. I thought it was just natural.
Yeah, it's not like you didn't know there's a rule. Yeah, there's a rule to these things, right? Korean people, they don't know this rule. So when you ask people about this, they're like, if you ask a Korean person, they're like, well, I don't know what you're talking about. Like many Korean people told me that. So, you know, we're pretty special, like learning Korean as a second language. You're going to know all these rules, and then you're going to be able to impress your Korean friends. And then they're going to be like, oh, I didn't know that, right?
Yeah. Even I didn't know.
Yeah, our Korean teacher here doesn't know. All right, so that's how you conjugate the verbs. This is going to be a super big step, because now you're going to be able to use all these verbs in your sentences, right? So we're going to learn more Korean grammar rules. Then you're going to be able to use these verbs in your sentences. So I think this video is going to be so important for you. So I really think if you do study some lessons from our channel, I think this one is super important, okay? So guys, as always, thank you for watching. Subscribe. Please smash that like button. Please. Leave a comment. My name is Tara.
My name is Dana.
See you next time. Bye.
Bye.